Yeah, we're talking about WHSmith this morning because what a week it has been as far as retail results are concerned. M&S telling us this week profits down by another 10%. Within the last hour, we've heard from Mothercare telling us that sales there down another 9%. And of course, Arcadia, that's the firm that owns things like Topshop and Dorothy Perkins and Burton's. It's announced plans to close stores. And remember, Jamie's Italian, the restaurant chain, falling into administration earlier this week. So really a tough time, and amid all of that doom and gloom, this place, WHSmith, is managing to buck the trend. Sales and profits, it reported, were up, profits up by 1% last week. So how are they doing it? Well, I sat down with the boss of WHSmith, that's Steve Clarke, and he's been at WHSmith for about 15 years, so he's got a pretty good insight into what's happening on the high street. And he doesn't do many interviews. In fact, this is his first television interview. So I asked him just how tough it is out there right now.
Much of the problem in the high street at the minute comes from the cost of operating there. And the biggest cost that we face as retailers is business rates. And often our business rates in some locations are higher than the rent that we pay. And that just can't be right. Many of the businesses that have disappeared from the high street over the last 2 or 3 years have been very clear about the pressure that business rates have put on them. And in effect, we have actually taxed some of the UK's retailers out of business. And I think that's one of the things that needs to change.
One of the biggest criticisms is that many of your stores on the high street look tatty. They look tired. They're not like these stores that you might find at a train station or an airport. Why not?
First of all, Ben, we do have lots of very, very nice stores in our high street business, but in some locations the environment is very challenging and you have to make a trade-off between decisions that will enable a store to continue to be profitable or decisions which people may prefer, but the store will ultimately be unprofitable and you will have to shut it. We still have the same number of stores on the high street that we had 5 years ago. We haven't been closing stores down. We still have a very profitable high street business, and most importantly to me, we still employ thousands of people on the high street.
But as the boss, is it painful to see that criticism day in, day out, that the stores look tired?
I'll be completely frank with you. It's personally probably the most painful aspect of my job, not just because I take it personally, but because I know all of the great people who work in our stores. They hear and see that criticism as well.
Now let's talk about prices, because there is a difference, isn't there? That if I'm shopping on the high street, I will pay a different price than if I'm at an airport or a train station. Why is there a big difference?
In airports and train stations, it is a completely different economic model. Rents are much, much higher. The other thing that I would say is in travel locations, the costs of operating are much, much higher. Many of these stores are open 24 hours a day, so there are much, much higher operating costs associated with travel locations. And again, our prices reflect that. But I should also say much of what we sell in airports is priced exactly the same as what we sell in high street.
So 15 years at WHSmith, Steve. You're leaving at the end of October. Why now?
For some time I've had a commitment to my husband that I would take a prolonged break from work once the conditions were right at WHSmith. And what I've happily been able to achieve is alignment between some of my personal commitments to Mike and my family and my responsibilities to ensuring I leave WHSmith in a very, very strong position. That has happened now, so my plan once I leave Smiths is to take some time off, and what I do beyond that I'll decide while I'm taking some time off.
So that's Steve Clarke speaking to me there, the outgoing chief executive of WHSmith after 15 years with the firm. And as you heard there, taking a bit of time off, but expect to see his name somewhere pretty soon. I think there's a lot of retailers on the high street that'll be looking to do something similar that Steve's done with WHSmith and managing to buck that trend amid all of that doom and gloom on the high street. So by no means is this the last that we've heard from Steve Clarke. I think that's fair to say.